Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about getting better with money. New channel hai to some likes and subscriptions will really help. Well, today I'm going to talk about a commonly known but misinterpreted aspect known as inflation. Now a lot of people will tell you to invest in products that actually beat inflation. But that statement is kind of incomplete and maybe even irrelevant. And I'll tell you why. First, let's talk about what is inflation. Now, if you know what inflation means, then you can skip to the next section of the video. Otherwise, continue watching. Simply put, अगर आप लास्ट ईयर आलू या प्याज 20 रुपए में खरीदते थे और आज वो 25 का हो गया है, that is due to a phenomenon known as inflation. The rise in prices for products and services in general is known as inflation. आज की डेट में inflation is around 7 to 8% in India. That means in general, the prices of products or services are increasing by 7 to 8% every year. Now, a lot of people say that investment should be done in a way that they beat inflation, that you should get at least inflation plus 3 to 4% returns, otherwise your money is losing value. And that's why FDs are not really recommended, because FD ka return is only about 4 to 6%, jabki inflation is 7 to 8%. But this inflation ka benchmark itself is the wrong benchmark to keep. And I'll tell you why in this video. But to understand why the inflation figure is not the right benchmark, you need to first understand how inflation is calculated. Now pay attention here, because only after you understand this will you understand why inflation is the wrong benchmark. So to calculate inflation, we use the basket of goods approach. Basically, when the government calculates inflation, they create a hypothetical basket with certain products and services that are most commonly used by people. So things like auto fare, taxi fare, movie tickets, mobile phones, fruits and vegetables, etc. are considered in the basket. Now, depending on how important each of these products is to the daily consumer, weights are assigned to each of them. And based on the weights and the prices of these items, an indicator is calculated. This indicator is known as the Consumer Price Index or CPI. अब ये exactly कैसे calculate होता है, what the formula is and all, let's not get into that because it will unnecessarily complicate things. But it will be sufficient to understand that based on the most commonly used products and services, their weights and their prices, this indicator called CPI is calculated. Now, every month this exercise is done and CPI is calculated for every month. And the difference between the CPI for any month and the same month in the previous year is expressed as a percentage, which is known as the CPI inflation. To give you an example, if the CPI in September 2021 was 100 and in September 2022 the CPI is 108, that means that the inflation is 8%. Now every month these inflation numbers are calculated and declared by the government. So you'll ask, Ankur, what is wrong with keeping inflation as a benchmark while investing? Now this is what's wrong. On the screen, you'll see a list of some of the items which are a part of the basket. Here you'll see things like horse cart fare, VCR and VCD players, tape recorders and whatnot. These are all part of the CPI basket. But tell me something, do you use any of these products? मुझे तो at least 10 साल हो गए since I used any of them. They're completely irrelevant for people like us now, but they're still a part of the basket. Next, I'm sure you use earphones. You're probably using it right now to watch this video. And some of you may also be using iPads and tablets. And यार हम सब Netflix, Prime, Hotstar वगैरह में से कोई एक सब्सक्रिप्शन तो यूज करते ही हैं. But all of these products are not a part of the CPI basket. Now here's an interesting thing. Beer also is a part of the CPI basket. But to a non-drinker, it doesn't really matter whether the prices of beer increase or decrease. Okay guys, don't lose focus. I know aaj weekend hai and beer may make you get distracted, but come back and focus on the video. Now here's the problem. The CPI basket is made for the average population. तो रूरल इंडिया में आज भी हॉर्स कार्ट्स यूज होती होंगी, but it is completely irrelevant for us. Same way, a Netflix subscription is important to us, but it doesn't really exist in the basket. Then there's another third problem. The inflation basket has items such as house rent. बट अगर आप रेंट पे रहते ही नहीं हो तो वेदर द रेंट इंक्रीजेज और डिक्रीजेज इज इररेलेवेंट फॉर यू. But the basket assigns a weight of 9% to house rent, which is a high proportion, and it means that the calculation of inflation could be very different from what is applicable to you if you don't stay on rent. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that CPI calculation is incorrect. It's probably done well. But what I'm saying is that inflation is calculated for the economy as a whole and not for you or me as an individual. अब आप सोचो, अगर Netflix अपना सब्सक्रिप्शन कॉस्ट बढ़ा देता है, won't you have to pay more money next month onwards? You will, right? But ये तो inflation में consider ही नहीं हुआ. That is the problem. Since your inflation may be very different from the economy's inflation, you cannot really say whether your stock or mutual fund returns have beat the inflation percentage and it's a good investment. Maybe it isn't, because without knowing your personal inflation, you won't know how much to beat. Now, if you want to know your personal inflation, the easiest way to do it is to take your bank statement for every month and calculate the total outflow of money. Do it for all months for say the past 1 or 2 years, calculate the increase and then calculate your personal inflation. Now this again may not be 100% accurate because there are a lot of variables, but it will still be better than keeping the economy's inflation as a benchmark. Well guys, that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel and share this with friends who should know about it. Oh, and before you go, if you're a reader, why don't you subscribe to our weekly newsletter where we simplify money management with similar insights. We currently have more than 6,500 people who read it and love it. Why don't you join them too? The link is in the description.